Hi everyone, I'm Alex West, author and co-host of the Faculty of Horror podcast, and welcome back to Sympathy for the Sequel here on RUE MORGUE TV. In this series, we look at the biggest franchises in horror and do a deep dive into the lowest rated entry according to Rotten Tomatoes. By examining that entry's production history and reception, we aim to uncover how it got that distinction, and we try to highlight at least a few redeeming qualities about it. Today, we are talking about the franchise that comes for us all. What was once meant to be just an episode of The X-Files found theatrical success with the original film in 2000, which saw a group of teens escape a near-death experience through protagonist Alex's premonitions, only to have death stalk and kill them all. The film was plucky, inventive, and a little bit mean, kind of a bridge to the torture porn phenomena that would take over horror in the aughts. But at the end of the decade, death and its designs were getting a little tired. The lowest entry, according to Rotten Tomatoes, is The Final Destination from 2009. This film comes in with a whopping 27% somehow. Sandra Hall from the Sydney Morning Herald writes, "The film showers you with gore while dumping a motor engine on your lap and poking you in the eye with a burnt stick." I think most of us know what to expect with a Final Destination film. We're here for the kills. Final Destination has delivered this effectively in the original film, as well as the third and fifth entries in the franchise. This one is just too broy and one-dimensional in an already one-dimensional conceit to be remotely considered for you to spend your time on. As you may be able to tell, I had some real issues with this film. So much so that I had a really hard time breaking down what I wanted to talk about today, so let's just start with some of the basics. Characters. Do these characters even have names? I know there's brunette Chris Evans and cute girl McTightshirt who are the leads, and then there are a whole host of other characters who are either so boring I barely remember them, or so putridly awful they're simply lined up like dominoes to accept their deaths with no narrative weight. No one comes off well in this film, so we're just stuck here for 80 minutes, waiting, pleading, begging for these characters to just die already. Also, how 2009 is this film, Alex? It is so crammed with so much nu metal-inspired emo cock rock that I'm pretty sure the music supervisor was a pair of sentient bootcut jeans. When I think back to when a Final Destination film works, it centers around characters dying in elaborate ways in ordinary scenarios. The banal with the bloody, the everyday with the explosive, and so on and so forth. In The Final Destination, we're treated to less mousetrap-esque games and more innards being sucked out through a shitty dude's anus. Is it effective? Sure. Is it interesting? I'd argue no. The fun of Final Destination is making the familiar terrifying. This film is so preoccupied with being extreme that there's no sick fun or humor left in it anymore. This film despises its characters, and because of that, it despises the audience watching it. When every character is treated as disposable at best and deserving to be killed at worst, there aren't a lot of places for the film to go except once again to be watching them picked off one by one by one. The Final Destination solidifies some of my overall issues with this franchise. While they can be fun when the tone is better thought through, it's possibly the only horror franchise that is deeply uncurious about its own mythology, meaning that each film just kind of bounces from set piece to set piece to set piece with no narrative stakes driving it forward. And while the whole blueprint of a Final Destination film may be threadbare, the most egregious part of this film is no Tony Todd.
I'll see you soon.
What the fuck am I doing with my life watching a Final Destination film without the great Tony Todd? His character shows up in every previous film, sometimes just as a voiceover, and he adds class and gravitas to the proceedings while usually delivering some menacing exposition that this film, frankly, desperately needs to break up the tedium. This film could have been better. Even if it had no mythology, it could have made do with characters who literally aren't just credited as MILF. Or deaths that felt vaguely plausible. They did it in the film after this. The Final Destination is a deeply cynical film that thinks this is what horror fans expect and deserve. It thinks we'll put up with this bland, unimaginative, extreme nonsense because these creators are using a familiar title. So, I'm going to treat this film with about as much respect as it gives its fans. The only thing redeeming about this film is that it's less than 90 minutes. Fuck this movie. Also, at the age of 37, I found my first gray hair this morning, and I think it's because this movie enraged me so much. This movie is the child I never wanted.
Well, what can I say, ladies? It looked good.
So that's our episode on The Final Destination. Let us know what you think of this franchise and what franchise should we do next on this series. And if you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe. So until the next time a film almost breaks your brain and gives you gray hair with its inherent stupidity, we'll see you in the sequel.